G'day everyone, welcome to another edition of Guvs Hero Review videos. Today we are going to be continuing in our Mechanoid series, taking a look at the purple 5-star hero, Shutdown, the precise rocket robot. So Shutdown is available for summons, as we saw from the Menace portal, which rolls around once every 8 weeks. It is on a month-on-month off rotation with the Other Alliance event, which is the Monster Island event. Unfortunately, for all of us, there are no featured heroes during the Mechanoid summon, which means that there is equal odds... Oh, that's an interesting bug. Equal odds of you getting Shutdown as literally any of the other legendary heroes, and that's a 1.2% chance of getting any legendary hero. That was weird. Why did there no graphic for keyboard? Anyway, continuing on. Shutdown is a part of a newer batch of heroes that was added to the Menace family in April 2022, alongside Cutlass and Gearbox, roughly a year after the initial event release in April 2021. The portal was further expanded more recently in June 2023 updates to include Mastodon, but all of those heroes are for other review videos, so check them out if you're interested. Flipping over to a card that was provided to me by Slayer and Joe EML. Thank you very much, guys. We can have a look at her artwork. So I will say, technically it's gender neutral. There's not really anything that gives away male or female. However, my brain kind of goes, if that was a movie character, it would totally have a female voice actor. So that's why I say she and her a lot, but technically it probably would be it, they, them situation. So anyway. The artwork does have some rockets on the wrists, which fits in well with her special skill. A little gun on the holster, so I'm getting some like assassin droids from Star Wars, the IG mode, a little bit of those kind of vibes going on. But yeah, that's sort of her artwork. So pause if you wish, and otherwise we'll carry on with her review. So moving on to her family. So she is a member of the Mechanoids family, which means that she has a plus 12, 18, 24 or 30% chance if you had to do a support attack against the primary target of an ally member's special skill. This will trigger if you've got these bonuses if you've got 2, 3, 4 or 5 unique heroes from the Mechanoids family. 2 things to note. 1, it does have to be unique heroes, so you can't just bring along 2 copies of Shutdown. It's got to be like Shutdown and Quattro or Shutdown and Terminus as some examples. And the second thing to note is that a support attack is just a 100% snipe, which is triggered by some sort of external thing. So in the case of the Mechanoids family, it's triggered by an alliance member firing their special skill against a target enemy. So in that case, if one of your ally members shoots someone in the face, there's a X percentage chance that Shutdown will also deal a 100% snipe against that same enemy. The Mechanoid family members also gain a stat bonus when they are used during the Mechanoids event stages, so this is equivalent to a plus 4, 8, 12, 16 or 20% attack and defense improvement if you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 heroes from the Mechanoids family in your team. Note that this bonus only applies when they're used in the Mechanoids event, so it doesn't apply during any other facet of the game, it's only during that event specifically. Moving on, her personal stats, she has 755 attack, 704 defense, and 1405 HP. So there is a little bit of a skewing towards her attack stat away from her defense. It is only mild, it's not a massive skewing, but there is some skewing going on there. In terms of her charge speed is set to 60, which is fast. This requires 9 tiles to charge or 5 ghosted tiles. And to get a speed break, you do need to bring her up to 65, which is a plus 5 improvement, which you can do using either of the speed guns in the game, either the plus 9 from the B90, the Inksplosion B90, or the plus 6 from the Pearl-Scale Convex. You can't actually achieve a double break even if you combine the plus 9 speed gun and the speed node that she has in her talent tree, so it is somewhat irrelevant to get the speed node, so no real point in picking it up. Speaking of her class, she is a member of the Demolitions class, which means that there is a chance to shell shock the enemy by removing buffs from the target when dealing damage. Removal of buffs will also trigger a 15% damage increase per each buff that is removed, and there is also a flat improvement of 50% to the normal damage that is done. So this is a really great perk. Not only are you getting bonus damage through like tiles and also special skills and all that kind of thing, but you're also gaining a free chance, essentially a free chance at a dispel on your enemy heroes. And this comes because you don't have to charge a special skill or anything like that. You just have to use tiles or have minions striking the enemy heroes, and you've got a chance to dispel things like counterattack and such. So because of this, the Demolitions class is one that I will typically give +1 to just about all the heroes that I have that are maxed out in this class. By way of a specific emblem path, I'll jump over to my roster and I'm going to demonstrate on Blair, because I don't have Shutdown leveled up and I don't have any 5-star purple hero options either. So what I would be doing for her is I would be going a defense and HP route, and that's just to try to increase her survival. So we'd be coming to the right to start with, then we'd be going left, we'd go right again to get both the defense and HP nodes. Defense HP, and defense HP, and we would stop it there at +18, because going to +19 doesn't really gain us any benefit. It is a in there we've got a speed node and we've got an attack node at the bottom, so there's no real need for getting either of the 19 or 20 nodes. We can just leave her at, oops, close that, zoom it out a little. Yeah, so we would just go and follow defense HP the whole way down the tree, and we'd stop there. So that would be the path that I would follow if I was to emblem Shutdown. Alright, heading back over to the portal, and we can continue on with her skill. So her skill is titled Wrist Missiles, and at level 10 skill and 60 charge speed, it will deal 270% damage to the target with minor damage dealt to nearby enemies. This attack will bypass all defensive buffs, including counterattack. It will then go on to apply a -24% attack debuff to the target and nearby enemies. And finally, the target and nearby enemies will be silenced for 3 turns, which means they are unable to cast their special skills. So a little bit going on there. So let's break it apart a bit, and we're going to start with the direct damage component. So I find it very difficult to calculate out all the possible direct damage combinations in the game, so because there's just too many factors that feed into the damage calculation. So what I do instead to compare damage on heroes is I calculate their attack power, which is a metric that feeds into the damage calculation, and it's just their attack stat multiplied by this percentage in their special skill. So in the case of Shutdown, we have 755 attack and 270% power in her skill, which comes out in an attack power of 2039. To compare all the different speeds, we can then just divide by their number of tiles, which gives us attack power per tile. And for Shutdown, that comes out at 227, which is not great. It is not a great attack output from Shutdown. It comes in number 13 of 16 possible snipers in the purple arena. So I do... sorry, I should back up a little bit. The minor damage is 50% of the listed skill. So in the case of Shutdown, that comes out at 135% damage to nearby enemies. So because of this, majority of the damage is dealt against the target, which is why I sort of compare these splash damage or minor nearby heroes to snipers, because that's basically where their primary damage source goes. So overall for Shutdown, it is not a great damage output, but that's okay really, because for me, I don't consider Shutdown to be primarily a damage dealer. I see her much more as being a support hero from the secondary effects that are on her skill. So moving on from the damage, the next part of her skill is that the attack ignores all defensive buffs. Now, this is a little bit weird, and it's a little bit misleading, because this bypass applies to all elements of her skill, not just the damage component. So what makes this weird is that typically when things apply to the entire skill, they're written as like the first dot point on the skill. In this case, because essentially how they calculate out effects is they go from each line item is calculated individually, and it goes in a sequential order as per the dot point. So in this case, the way it reads is that it's either only applying to the secondary effects or it's tacked on to the first effect, rather than it applying to all of the parts of her special skill. So the other really weird thing is about what constitutes a defensive buff. In history cases, so in Empires and Puzzles, defensive buffs were literally buffs that affected the defense stat, i.e. defense against purple or defense against just straight up stat bonuses for defense. In PuzzleCombat, however, the definition is a little bit more broad, and it's a little bit less cut and dry as to what actually specifically is considered a defensive buff, because there's one really notable inclusion into this list, which is the protection against ailments, so the negation of ailments from someone like Doodle. So I don't really understand why Small Giant Games or SGG decided to make this change. I suspect that it's probably an unintentional change, but rather than actually fixing it and reverting back to defensive buffs being actually buffs that affect the defense stat, they've kind of just gone, nah, that's too much effort, it's working as intended. And it's become a quote-unquote feature. So I won't say too much more on the topic other than the fact that this bypass is very, very powerful because it flies to the entire skill. So even if you put up a defense against ailments, if you put up reflection of ailments, this will bypass those buffs and it will apply the ailments anyway, as well as dealing the full amount of damage. I do find it somewhat too powerful in that it applies to everything, but yeah, I don't know. It is a very, very good effect when you've got it on your attacking hero. Very annoying effect when it's on the like your enemy hero, and it's just bypassing everything you throw up. So like, an example that most people would be really familiar with is Sidestep. Shutdown is kind of in that same boat because it will do bypass everything. Because, yeah, anyway, it is weird because there's other buffs which are what I would consider more defensive in nature, such as Taunt or Damage Share. Those buffs aren't actually included in the defensive buff. So it's really weird. I don't understand what the delineation is, and I really do suspect that it was a bug and they just didn't bother fixing it and reclassifying the ailment protect. But yeah. Anyway, carrying on because I am harping on a little bit there. The third part of her skill is an attack ailment. Minus 24% is on the lower end of the percent-based debuffs, but it is still percent-based, which means that it will scale with target emblems, weapons, future power creep, and stuff like that. The attack debuff has its uses because it will increase your survival in a fight, but due to how the damage calculation works, attack buffs are not as effective as defense modifiers. So the better way of improving your survival is with a defense buff than it is with an attack debuff of equivalent percentages. And it's just how the defense calculation goes. But regardless, it is still a very good effect and it will improve your healing, your survival in a game. The final part of our skill is the silence. I say it in all of the reviews, charge control is like the best effect that you can have on a hero, like point blank. Silence is just another form of charge control as it prevents the hero from firing their special skill. Is it as good as mindless attack or charge cutting? Probably not, because at the end of its effect, you're not going to have like the charge removed. But it is still very good because it does grant you a 3-turn respite from them firing their special skill, which may actually be a longer window than if you just cut their charge by, say, 20%. They could regenerate that in 1 or 2 turns. So it isn't as good as Insanity. Insanity is kind of like the peak level of charge modifiers, because not only does it stop them from firing their special skill and hurting you, but it then wipes out 100% of their charge because they have cast their crappy little mindless Insanity special skill. Regardless of that though, silence is still a really, really great effect in both offense and defense situations. On defense, it can kind of throw out your entire rhythm of a fight, and in attacking situations, it can really change the tide of battle by stopping like certain heroes from firing their skills and changing the battlescape. So for Shutdown's overall remarks, she is a very good hero. Her damage output isn't great, but her secondary effects more than make up for that lack of damage output and grant her enormous versatility in the fight. So the combination of silence with the bypass and defensive buffs means that you're pretty much always going to be putting out that full damage, and you're also going to be silencing your all 3 of your enemies, even if you've got someone like Doodle in the fight or Giselle or the like. So very, very, very good hero. A lot of versatility. So for war and raid attacks, I'm going to give her a B grade, or a B plus, sorry. Very versatile, very useful hero. War machines, I'm going to give her a B. She's got a decent attack stat, but she also has that silence, which can actually be useful in war machine fights, stopping the war machine from hurting your entire team. Eventing, I'm going to give her a B. She's still got decent damage and she's got an attack stat, but she also has that silence, which will stop, because health is a portion of the scoring. So if you stop the bosses from hurting you, it kind of leads towards better health scores in those fights. As a defending hero, I'm going to give her a B plus for war and raid defense. She's got fast damage, she's got a silence, best suited probably to a flank position realistically, where she can shelter behind a tank and still silence the enemy heroes 1 or 2 times during a fight. In the tournament settings, I'm going to give her a B plus for attack and a B grade for bloody battle. again, it's good damage. Not quite so great as she might be if she was an AoE 3 hitter, but yeah, anyway. On buff boosting, I'm going to give her an A- for attack and a B+ for defense. This is because you'll see more buffs in it this tournament, but you're going to be bypassing them anyway, so it is still very good there. Charged attacks, I'm going to keep her at a B+ and a B for attack and defense, and that's because she doesn't gain a huge improvement to her charge speed, but she is still a very good hero. So overall, for her grading, that comes out as being a B+ for her attack grade and a B+ for her defense grade. So very, very solid hero overall. And that concludes the content that I have for this review of Shutdown. Thank you. Sorry, this is always just my opinions on these heroes. If you do have countering opinions or there's anything you'd like to add, please do jump down to the comments section of this video. I do love hearing your feedback on these videos and these heroes, and I try to read and reply to as many as you as I can. If you did enjoy the video and found the content to be useful, like the video, subscribe to my channel to find more stuff like this, but share the video around, because realistically, if it was useful for yourself, it's going to be useful to the people you play with as well. So yeah, thank you once again for tuning in and joining me for this review of Shutdown. I do hope I will see you again soon, but until then, stay safe and happy gaming. Cheers, bye!